Well, Tsuda-san, what's next?
Yes, next. First, let me ask you, what comes to mind when I say 106 centimeters?
Well, let me see, 106 centimeters. That's up to about my waist. I used to be that height long time ago. Yes, I surely did.
Well, there are lots of 106 centimeter things, but it's actually the viewpoint of a certain wheelchair user, and that viewpoint is generating a lot of interest right now.
I know public facilities and big commercial facilities are becoming increasingly barrier-free, but I've also heard many standalone cafes and restaurants don't have the money to install such facilities.
Exactly, and so amid this, one business owner is presenting a value proposition for becoming barrier-free, and he's also a wheelchair user. So what new viewpoints can be seen from a height of 106 centimeters? Take a look.
This is a shopping mall in a suburb of Kobe. Coming out of the facility is a group of people, with wheelchair users among them. They make their way through the city.
If you want to go left, then just turn the right wheel.
This woman has never used a wheelchair before and appears unsure of how to move about.
It's lighter than I imagined, but because of that, it just zooms and it's scary.
They move about town in wheelchairs and enter establishments such as restaurants. This is actually to collect information necessary for wheelchair users.
One step, two steps.
First, they check for steps at the entrance, not just whether there are steps, but also how many and details, such as the height of each.
It's big. When just 5 centimeters become 2 steps, one helper isn't enough to lift up the wheelchair, so knowing how many steps is important information.
The data on the steps is put into an application.
The information has been recorded. Thank you.
In addition to steps, the application asks users to check a detailed list of conditions, such as shop space, brightness, electrical outlets, and whether seeing eye dogs are permitted. The developer is collecting such word-of-mouth information on establishments nationwide for the application. The app was developed by an entrepreneurial venture in Osaka called Miraido. The company is led by the president, Toshiya Kakiuchi, who is himself a wheelchair user.
In a wheelchair, my eye level is 106 centimeters high. There are things that I notice only because I'm in a wheelchair.
Because of a congenital disease that weakens his bones, Mr. Kakiuchi needs a wheelchair to move around. He started his own company when he was still a student and has been working on ideas that he can pursue as a wheelchair user.
The elderly and people with physical difficulties exceed 40 million. Parents pushing strollers also face difficulties. If we can capture this market, we'll make money for sure.
Mr. Kakiuchi says by becoming barrier-free, it's possible to make money. In addition to people with physical difficulties, there are the elderly and parents using strollers. Combined, he says the barrier-free market is big.
What are you working on? This is consulting work related to universal design at wedding facilities.
This is a wedding facility in Yokkaichi, Mie Prefecture, that opened recently. Ahead of the opening, staff members from Miraido arrive. They say even wedding facilities with a barrier-free focus are found to have unforeseen shortcomings when actually checked from the perspective of people with physical difficulties. A detailed inspection is carried out.
This mirror is slanted down. You can't use it looking at it directly. Instead, you have to look up. This is actually a feature that's inconvenient.
In this way, a final check is carried out before the opening, and they provide advice on necessary improvements.
Even if it's made for people with physical difficulties, their view might be surprisingly different. There are aspects we can't see, so we're grateful.
On this day, Mr. Kakiuchi is at an unexpected place. It's a cemetery in a suburb of Osaka that Miraido supervised.
There aren't many places that are flat like this all the way from the parking lot.
A cemetery where even wheelchair users can move about freely. The water drawing area is also low. Throughout the facility, they have added features to improve convenience for the elderly and children as well. The office building has also been recently renewed. They say Mr. Kakiuchi's ideas have been put to practice in various areas.
What he pointed out the most, and what we had to rethink, was the toilets. He said the toilets for the wheelchairs were dreary and no good.
With the multi-purpose toilets, they not only focused on functionality, but also comfort. This facility has refreshed the conventional image of cemeteries. With applications streaming in, they've even had to expand the plot.
People who choose this place cite the barrier-free features as the biggest factor. As the population grows, people won't choose your business without such features.
Ahead of the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games, other initiatives are also underway. On this day, Mr. Kakiuchi is visiting Guru Navi, which runs a restaurant information site. Speaking to about 50 people in the restaurant industry, he tells them that there are big business opportunities in becoming barrier-free.
Changing the hardware comes with many hurdles. It's especially difficult for restaurants. Even if you can't change the hardware, you can change your heart right now.
Mr. Kakiuchi tells them that a simple change in perception will help in realizing a barrier-free world. What do the participants think?
Among our customers, the elderly make up quite a big proportion.
We're getting more foreign customers, but we haven't been able to bring in many wheelchair users and people with physical difficulties.
Mr. Kakiuchi says there's significance in taking action now.
Especially because no one else is doing it yet. By becoming barrier-free, people will choose your business and they'll be happy and grateful. That's what I want to emphasize.
Mr. Kakiuchi is taking big steps toward promoting barrier-free as a business. He'll continue offering advice from his 106-centimeter perspective.
So the idea is not simply to rely on social welfare services and social contributions, but to generate value for businesses in becoming barrier-free and to build the society that's accessible for everyone.
Yes, I do agree. And for example, people with children are always on the search for shops and restaurants with that can accommodate babies and strollers, and they actually do become repeat customers.
Right.
So in that sense, I think what Mr. Kakiuchi is doing is very promising.
So I think we all need to look at the world from that height as well, and see things from the perspectives of others. Well, after the break, we have a new episode of Takumi.